Welcome everybody. Today on the show we're making pasta fagioli. There's our pasta. We're gonna make a nice little, this is like a hearty, lots of vegetable, a little bit of protein with the beans, and we've got some pancetta. But your mom would be proud of you for eating this because it's got all your veggies, it's got some protein, it's got all the good stuff, and it's packed full of flavor, and we're gonna show you how to make it. We're gonna come over here, and I've got my pan heating up a little bit, and we're gonna get our pancetta rendered down. Just like when we cook bacon, we don't want this heat to be really hot. We want it to render the fat before the meat part cooks. You'll get much crunchier bacon, pancetta, all that kind of stuff when you do it that way. So I lowered my table today, and I kind of like it because I don't have to like cook up here. But it's weird because I have to like do this to see what the flame's doing. But it's working. It's working. I've got some chicken stock over here. When I buy my chicken broth or chicken stock, I buy the unsalted. Sometimes it can be a little bit harder to find, but when you really look at the sodium content of pre-bought, pre-made chicken stocks and beef stocks, it's like astronomically salty. So if you'll notice, I've got all the stuff in place, but no salt in sight. You probably won't need much. I've got some tucked away just in case, but I buy the no salt added because it's just not necessary. And I learned something recently in looking at those nutrition facts and stuff. You would think the reason they pack all the salt in all those broths and stuff is for what? Shelf life, right? No. And it could have been just the way the deliveries were and stuff, but the unsalted was actually a couple days or a week or whatever it was, a month, I don't know. It was further out than the one chock full of salt, so stay away from the salt. Your mom would be proud. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna show you, Josh wanted me to hold back one carrot, or a part of a carrot at least. And I'm going to show you how I've chopped these. I've chopped these all pretty small. You cut things on a flat surface, you have a less chance of cutting yourself. I make no promises, but it's a less chance. And then you just come over here, chop, chop, chop. That's how I cut the carrot. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the mise en place, if you will. So we've got our mirepoix, which is celery, easy for me to say, celery, carrots, and onion. We're gonna add this onion next in with our pancetta. The other interesting ingredient that we've got today is leeks. A lot of people, myself included, until I started cooking this dish actually, didn't have any experience with leeks. And I was like, well, I don't know a good place to start. So today's recipe is a good place to start, and I'll show you how to do this. So all this big, I mean, it's first of all part of the onion family, but all this dark green stuff is gonna be really bitter, but you can save this and put it like in a stock or something like that, which is totally what I just did. But the part that you're really after is this bottom part. Now, don't be that aggressive and chop that much off, but I'm just showing you. The interesting thing with leeks is even though they're grown in the ground, they find somehow sand, and there's sand all throughout these layers. So it's not like an onion where you can just take off the outside and then chop it up. You'll see inside of here, there's sand all over the place. And so the best way to do that is to fan this out in running water, and there's sometimes sand inside of these layers and stuff. So the white and the bright green is like the best flavor profile for what we're doing today, which is what I've done here. But yeah, you can see there's just sand all over the place in there. So I'll actually go ahead and still use these. Yeah, see, yeah. Nobody wants to eat that. So I've got some cold water over here, and I'm going to clean these up a bit. So once you know that, there's nothing to be intimidated when it comes to leeks. It's just an onion flavor. It's a lot like a green onion. It's not a super strong flavor when it comes to that onion taste. And that little bit goes a long ways. And that is Leek's. It's like the confetti of vegetables. Okay, so our pancetta is rendered down pretty well. I'm going to actually take this out and remove it, but keep the oil, if you will, the grease, the whatever you want to call it, the good stuff, the flavor in the pot. If I don't get it all, I'm not worried about it. Perfection isn't everything. That's why I like cooking over baking. Baking, a lot of that little stuff matters. In cooking, it's like, ain't gonna hurt nothing. All right, so as you can see, we've got some, well, drippings, if you will, in the pan. So, in go our onions, and here we go. We're going to sweat these out a little bit. Get these going. Hey, you. Once those get going, then we're going to add in the rest of our mirepoix, carrots and celery, that is, and cook those down a little bit. We'll be back in just a minute. Got about 1.5 cups of celery that we were going to add in there. And about the same of carrots. Might have a little extra, but it'll be all right. And we're just going to cook this together for about 10-15 minutes. We don't want our vegetables to be mush by the time this is all done. We want this part to be kind of al dente, to where it still has a little bit of bite to it. So we'll be back when that's done. All right. So our vegetables have cooked down some. They're not mush, but they're not totally raw either. So they're in that perfect al dente spot, which means we're going to add in some garlic. Don't forget, garlic doesn't take long, so move fast, why don't you? We're going to take some fresh thyme and a little rosemary and add that in as well. Some oregano. And depending on you, if you want it to be, I'm not looking to make this spicy, let me say that. It's just going to have a little something in the background. If you want to make it spicy, by all means add as much as you want of the red pepper flakes, or if you want a fresh pepper or whatever you want to do on that part, that's up to you. I'm going to call that good. And we're just going to mix this in. I can smell that garlic, and I can smell that thyme. That fresh thyme is very floral and smells amazing. So we're going to go in with some crushed tomato. I've got a big old can. I think it's like 29 ounces or something like that. Of course, you know that we'll put all that in the description link down below. And I'm going to cook this for about a minute or so too. A lot of people forget that, hear me out on this, that tomato is cooked like a vegetable. I know it's a fruit. Get out of here. Get out of here. But just like your vegetables and stuff, it's got a lot of flavor packed in there that you want to let that flavor bloom a little bit while it's cooking before we add in some chicken stock. So let that cook for just a minute. And then we're going to add about, I don't know, 10 cups or so of chicken stock. And then we're going to let that cook for 20-30 minutes and let it do its thing. And we'll be back when we're done with that, I guess. What goes good with soup? An appetite. You got it. Also bread. So we're going to cut some bread up. Should have a really nice fancy bread cutting knife, but here at the studio I don't. I've got a chef knife and it'll do the trick. So if you want to look all fancy and look like you know what you're doing, you cut bread at a bias. That means at an angle. and you get all this fancy schmancy stuff. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly sandwich cut diagonally, but this is for adults. What we're gonna do is take some butter, because butter. How much, Jared? It doesn't matter, just put some butter.
Yeah.
We're just gonna melt this down a little bit. See this fancy microwave back here? Dah. Who needs it? It's not cooking unless it's in a skillet, right? Doesn't matter. Hey, don't worry about the size of my skillet. It'll get the job done. See? All right, so we got some butter. Might have melted it a bit too much for what I'm wanting. Not a big deal, you know what that means? More butter. But butter! Yeah, buddy, butter. I'm gonna put in some parsley. Put in a little garlic. We're going to give this a good mix. I couldn't be any messier if I tried. Okay, so I'm going to set this right here. Extra to garlic. We'll use that up at some point soon. And I'm gonna butter these up and put them in the oven. Actually, my little oven over here has also got an air fryer, so I'm gonna try that for the first time tonight. But I'm gonna wait on this because I don't want nice hot bread ready to eat and the soup's not ready. So a lot of cooking is about timing things. So it's not a bad idea to have it prepped and ready to go for when you're ready. It's just there and here we go. So just make good use of your time. All right, so we have got 2 cans of cannellini beans, white kidney beans. We're gonna put them in, juice and all. We're gonna let those cook for about 10 minutes, get nice and warmed up all throughout. All right, it's looking really good, smelling really, really good. So now we're gonna do some fancy stuff. This is called a spider. What we're gonna do is gonna be like, what? You're doing that? Why? Bear with me. So some of these vegetables we're going to take out and reserve back. Mmm. I'm going to call that good. Set those to the side. And now it's time for some power tools. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit so I can hear myself think. Okay, so we're going to go in. I've made a lot of mistakes with an immersion blender because I didn't grow up using one. So the smartest thing to do is to try to keep it flat, first of all. And the biggest mistake I make is I see something, I'm like, oh, let me go over there and get it. You're scratching the crap out of the bottom of your pan because it's metal on metal. Makes sense, right? I didn't think of that. So just keep it in one spot. If you need to tilt your pan because it's getting to whatever, it's not deep enough basically, then do so. But let all the stuff come to you. There's gonna be a natural suction that happens to this. It's not really strong, it's like a magnet basically, is what it feels like. And so it's basically, well, let me see if I can do this. Don't do that. If you wanted to use this guy or something similar, you could do it in there too. It's totally fine. It's the same thing. This is just a more portable version. I've actually got it raised up a little bit. If my pot was see-through, you'd see that it's not all the way at the bottom. I've lifted it up just a little bit so that I can move it around without worrying about scratching the bottom of my pot. I need this guy. We're not looking to get like totally perfect and smooth and make it look like baby food or something, but it is going to be more of a puree or a bisque or something than just a liquidy soup. It's going to be, it's got a lot of rich ingredients in it, rich in flavor, and I mean, there's some fancy ingredients in this. So we just want to elevate it a little bit. A lot of what I've learned in cooking is texture can be a great conductor of flavor. So if you've got, for example, this soup and it's really good and full of flavor and it's liquid, like the broth, what's going to happen? You're going to put it in your mouth and you're just going to drink it, basically. You need something that's going to sit on your tongue for a minute so you can actually be like, oh, this is so good. And that's what this is all about. So now, obviously, the reason why I've reserved some of these vegetables is because I don't want it to be a perfectly smooth puree. I want to know what's in it whenever I eat it, when I look at it. So. And it's totally up to you how thick or how not pureed or whatever you want to call it. That's totally up to you. That's why I still got a whole thing of chicken stock over here, because if I do get it too thick, then I just add a little more chicken stock and it's easy fix, not a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. It's good enough for me. And now then, we can add this back in. Safe to do so, no more pureeing. And we're gonna bring in some pasta. Today we've got Cavatelli. As you can see, it's looking kind of thick, right? I was like, oh God, I don't know. If this was the finished product, that'd be all right. But because we're gonna add in pasta, and it's going to be starchy, it's going to thicken it up. Also, those beans, now that they've broken loose, you've really got to be careful. This is not the time to walk out of the kitchen and go watch a YouTube clip or whatever. Stay in here because the beans will stick to the bottom and it'll actually burn on the bottom. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to do one ladle at a time until it's at the desired consistency. Again, keep in mind we're going to add a couple things that are going to thicken it up. We're also adding cheese as a garnish on the plate, so that's also going to be something that thickens it up. I'm pretty happy with that. So in with the pasta we'll go. Half a pound of pasta basically. That's 8 ounces. And now we're just going to cook it until our pasta's done. And that's it, man. So we'll be back when that pasta's done. Stand here and stir. We'll be back. 5 minutes is up. Can you tell? I can. Smells like it. So garlic bread. Best part. Here we go. Good stuff. We'll let that cool just a minute. Come over here. This is looking good. Go ahead and add your pancetta back in. Get that flavor in there. Get all that. You paid for it. You made it. Eat it. It's really good. The reason, by the way, in case you didn't know, that I pulled that out when we fried that up is so that when we use the immersion blender and pureed it, I like that little crunchy bits in there and stuff, and the little bites of flavor. So I didn't want it all in there with all the pureed vegetables. Cavatelli is an interesting pasta if you've not eaten it before. It's a lot like, imagine a shell. We've all eaten shell macaroni and cheese and stuff, right? Now imagine rolling that up, and so one side is like rolled inside of itself, and so it takes a little bit longer than a lot of pastas to cook because that middle layer has to get equally as done. So we're almost there. Just another minute, and we'll be ready to plate it up. All right, soup's on, or something like that. Bring on your Michelin stars.
That's your third picture right there.
Some freshly grated Parmesan Reggiano. And just because I like to be fancy, I saved back some of these parsley leaves. Pasta E FAGIOLI. All right, now then, well, that's a baby spoon. That ain't gonna do the trick. I'm gonna let it cool down. In the meantime, we've got a house full of guests and we're gonna get them some too. So, be back in a second again. All right, so we've got some roasted garlic olive oil. I'm gonna hit mine just a little bit. And now we dig in. But first, I gotta try some of this air fried garlic bread. That's perfect. A lot of people, it seems like, that are like high-end chefs kind of poo-poo the whole air fryer thing. Bread especially, I love air fried because it gives you the crunch all around. Now let's try some of the soup. Man, it's so robust. I love that. And there I can hear, yep, I can hear just a little bit of that hint of spice, but it's not a spicy dish. You just barely, it's kind of in the background, which is perfect. All those vegetables, all that heartiness, that stick to your bone quality of soup, a good soup, is all right here. So I would love to see and hear if you guys give this pasta dish a try. Pasta dish, whatever, soup, whatever. It's kind of a hybrid in between, but I would love to hear how it goes for you. So thank you so much for stopping by and checking us out. Don't forget that times are hard for everybody, so may your cup of coffee and your love of music be strong, but your sense of humor be even stronger. We'll see you on the next episode.